Hello, everyone. Welcome. Good to see you all. We have a couple more people coming in. Great. I think Grace is having a hard time getting into the room. All right. All right. Welcome, everyone. So good to see you all. We're going to take you through a very quick presentation and overview of our work here, and then we're going to dive right in. And can you see my screen?
Yes, got you.
Okay, terrific. All right, so welcome again to Real Industries Make It To You, Make It series. As always, please drop your LinkedIn handle into the chat window so that students can network with one another and with the professionals who are in the room. We have a number of internships and jobs that our friends in industry are sharing and eyeing for students who are in our programs. So students, if you're interested in any of these, please reach out to us. We'd love to provide you some mentorship to make sure you have the right resume, cover letter, and strategic approach for reaching out to land some of these companies and positions. So this is the 10-week Spring Make It Till You Make It series, and it's all designed to hone your emotional intelligence or your emotional quotient, to exercise your design mindset. We ask you to do things to learn certain skills and skill sets and mindsets that help you get a sense for your strengths and weaknesses and have you able to articulate that to future employers. And in the process, you're receiving mentorship from industry professionals, all with a goal for helping you land your dream job. And so this is the final week. It's so hard to believe. The Makers Challenge is here. And we have a speaker, and my colleagues from Verizon are here to introduce this speaker to you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it over to, I think, Marcus? Yes, Marcus.
Good go. Yes. Hey everyone. Excited to be here. Can't believe this is the last week, but we're going to end it on a good note. So joining us today is Janae Hawkins. She is on the business development team for Makers, and Makers is an awesome brand, and they do a lot of things. I'll let her speak to it, but I'm super excited to have Janae join us. She's also part of a few other programs inside of Verizon Media, like Spark and other things that I'm lucky enough to get to interact with her on. So super excited that we get to have her join us today. And we'll pass it over to Janae to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Marcus, for that introduction. I'm honored to be here. Any opportunity where I'm able to speak, because I do realize that at some point in my career or my trajectory, there was someone that always came back and spoke to me. And I remember those moments. So thank you for having me. It seems like a small group, right? Less than 10 people. It's what, 10 people on here? If I can just be honest and have a flow of just conversation, that will work, rather than me feeling like I'm presenting to a large crowd. So I am a East St. Louis native, East St. Louis, Illinois, right across the bridge from St. Louis. Attended Tennessee State University, an historically Black college and university, years ago. And directly out of college, I started working for a nonprofit called Thurgood Marshall College Fund, where they recruited from historically Black colleges and universities, particularly the public HBCUs, which are 47. So I traveled all across the country to recruit these amazing students who were trying to just figure it out. And when I say figure it out, it was not, what was laid out on their resumes and what they wanted to be, but really do intrinsic work so that they can be more approachable and more I don't know, more unique and outstanding to employers. So that was my role at TMCF. After that, I worked in Charlotte, North Carolina for a while, and I moved to the New York metropolitan area in 2013. So it's been almost 8 years. I still have my country accent. People up here are always like, where are you from? So yeah, I bring that with me because I'm very, very connected and tied to my roots. And I wanted something different because it was a lot of travel. It was a lot of in-person interaction, which I loved and still love that student aspect. But I wanted a new challenge and particularly work in an environment where everybody didn't look like me. Thurgood Marshall College Fund is recruiting HBCU students, but also everybody that worked with me was Black, and that's not what the world looks like. So I wanted that experience. So after years of being there, I was like, well, if I could marry my interest in media and TV and documentary filmmaking with women development, what would that look like? So fast forward to 2012, I'm in a cab in New York City visiting, and I see this video montage of two people that you may know, like Diane von Furstenberg, the fashion icon, and Ellen DeGeneres. And I was like, wait, they're telling their stories, and this is really unique. It's not like them just being interviewed by someone, they're actually telling their stories. And I saw the logo at the end of the video say Makers. I'm like, what is Makers? This is something I've never heard of, but I'm interested. So I digged a little deeper, did my research, and honestly, for maybe a few months, I stalked our founder and executive producer. I'm like, okay, if this is the move I'm going to make, I need to take that leap. And I was very moved because all of my moves throughout my career and even the relationships that I form are very spiritual because of the type of work that I do and what my calling is. And I needed it to make sense before I pursue this opportunity. So, and I can't talk, people. I've been talking all day. I'm sorry. So I reached out on LinkedIn, and guess what? She didn't respond. I'm like, lady, okay, so I'm gonna go another route. She was speaking, our former executive producer, and she's still our founder. She was speaking at New York Women in Communications, and there was actually an auction attached to that particular event. And long story short, with that situation, I bought a coffee to meet her. Now, because this is a small group, I'll tell you how much that coffee cost, $2,500. It's a lot of money when you are trying to bet on yourself and part of your dream, because I felt so compelled to do it. I felt like I needed to tell the stories of women, particularly women of color. And I knew that there was a gap in that area with Makers and what they were doing at the time. And I had already done the 25th anniversary documentary video for TMCF. So I was like, I can do this. I don't care if this lady knows me, I'm going to do it. And I did. I met her. She had no idea how much the coffee cost. It was like through a third party vendor, like Charity Buzz. She had no idea. And she's like, she's so amazing. And this is great. And she's thinking it's going to be just 30 minutes. I was like, wait. On a parallel path, AOL, who owned Makers at the time, and we're now owned by Verizon Media. We've gone through a couple of identity crises in the past few years. So we have new owners. And AOL was hiring a recruiter for executive recruiting and campus recruiting. I'm like, that's up my alley. I can do that. And she was like, wait, you applied for a job here? It was in the same office. And I did. And so because there was not an opportunity at Makers yet, I walked the halls of AOL and worked my way into a role at Makers, which at the time was a manager of partnerships. But I've created my own role because I do not subscribe to people telling me what I should do or what I can be. So now I am the partner development lead and do a lot of DE&I programming. What that means is, last year was a lot on people, and there are still so many conversations going on around racial injustices. And so being the only Black woman on my team, it was a lot of questions like, what do we do? What do we read? What do we watch? What do we do in terms of making an impact? And so I've developed a program particularly for Black women in corporate America to bridge that gap of pay and talent equity. That's for those women that are at that bottleneck level, like vice president and director level, and they're not quite at the C-suite. That's your CEO and your CFO and your CMO. And a lot of times Black women do not get in those roles. So much so there are only 4 Black CEOs in the country today, 2 of which are women. So I was upset about that. I was upset because there are people that know that this is the issue. They see the reports all the time through McKinsey or Lean In. But Makers has a unique opportunity because we are a brand that formally was about advancing, women in the workplace and, providing a space for our voices to be heard. And we had this tentpole event every year called the Makers Conference. We held it in LA, and I mean, the world shut down. Our last opportunity to see folks in person was last February. And we had to shift our model, our brand model, and who we are, and had to have tough conversations around that. Because it's been all about inspiration. But what do you do when most of your audience does not feel inspired or feel like they can keep going because of what's going on in the world? And so it was a time for me to authentically be myself and authentically Black, to be honest, which is a beautiful space to be in a corporate environment. But yeah, that's my journey to Makers and what I've been able to do. And I'm very, very proud of the newest initiative, Black Makers Ed, because it really is elevating and promoting and accelerating the trajectory of these women's careers who are brilliant leaders that are in their 30s and 40s and 50s, to be honest with you. But because that bottleneck and plus because of that systemic racism that's in place, that's even in corporate America, I had to insert myself and make sure that I was the voice in the room and making sure that they were hired and promoted. So yeah, that's my journey. I feel like I've been talking for a minute. My mouth is a little dry, but I see if you all have any questions around that. Was that Marcus?
What an incredible story, and so much opportunity for diving into so many different parts of it. Students, we're a small group. As you have questions, just go ahead and take yourself off mute. That's an indicator to us that you might have a question, or if you can't take yourself off mute, you can drop it in the chat window and I'll keep an eye out. But I will start with a question. I love how you identified a possible place for yourself at Makers, and how you systematically pursued the opportunity to be in front of the right people and find that opportunity. You talk about the $2,500 coffee. I do have a literal question, like, was it really $2,500 for like a container of whole bean something or other from?
Yeah, it was. That's a great question. It was a coffee meeting, and because our place is like a charity buzz that connect with huge organizations and nonprofit organizations, they make it so that you can meet a celebrity or somebody. I didn't care what it cost. I was going to get my foot in the door. And when I look back on it, I'm like, oh, now I would say that's like not a lot, but at the time, that was a nice penny to drop.
Yes, it was. So it was a charity opportunity to get in front of the right people. And so was this charity opportunity something that was readily available to you because of the circles that you traveled in, or did you seek it out because Makers was interesting to you?
Oh, that's a good question. By nature, I'm super ambitious and don't understand the word no. So I did it on my own, and I didn't, I also was still working. That's the other thing. I was very honest with my former employer about what I wanted to do outside of TMCF. And I made an opportunity because, I mean, there were other people that you could see in a silent auction. You're seeing it online. You're seeing folks bid on this opportunity, but I just did not care how much it was going to cost. And so we stopped at 2,500. But yeah, I went after it on my own.
That's so impressive. And I think a lot of students don't even realize that they can do that they can stalk the people that are publicly listed related to an organization. Or so it's actually those kinds of like nitty-gritty strategies that are helpful to unpack so that we can spell it out for them. Any other tidbits you would advise as they have their hit list of companies and different types of industries they'd want to be a part of? What would you recommend to them to like really be strategic and get in front of the right people?
Yeah, I think at any age, right? Whether it's middle school to college, like there's always going to be people coming to speak, always going to be some level of all these nuggets and gems that you hear. And most of it is going to go over your head. But what I will say, if you remember nothing else, when you love something and care so deeply about it, it's your passion, you feel like it's a part of your purpose, you will bet heavily on it. You will invest in your dream. And that does not matter how much it costs, right? And I didn't know at the time what this would lead me to. Had no clue, but I just listened to my gut and I listened to my heart. And it, of course, wouldn't have made sense to people in my close immediate circle because sometimes you can't tell everybody your dream. If and I'm super spiritual, so I know that when God gave me my calling and dream, it was not a conference call. It was between me and my God. And you can't, share that with everybody. And you feel very convicted to do something, just do it. And that sounds cliche. But I knew at that time, I was like, if I'm willing to like spend this much money, okay, we're gonna make this work and stay in there. And the beauty and the pain of this story too is it's not all been sweet. We are a small organization, small and mighty team, less than 10 people that are producing a lot of content and a lot of inspiration around our conference and our events. And it was uncomfortable moments that came with that. So when you're betting on your dream, get ready for what that entails because it's not going to always be a smooth ride. There were microaggressions, there were micro appreciation moments. It was a lot that I had to take on emotionally and physically, with stress manifesting in my body in different ways. But I knew that I was supposed to be here for a reason. And I'm just in this past year, after 5 years of being here, understanding what that it is. And so when you bet on your dream, the fruit of that is not going to present itself at first. It takes time. And there's a saying, and I'm going to butcher it, but the seeds that you plant today, you're not going to, experience or bear the fruit of that until later. You're not going to taste it. And sometimes it's other people that will, have the luxury of tasting what you planted years ago and what you harvested. But sometimes that's not in your lifetime. And I knew that $2,500 at the time, I could not articulate it then, I swear. But now I'm like, oh, that's why you did it. That was the little voice. So when you know it's right, you will invest in it. It does not have to be $2,500. That is my story, but you'll know what that is. If that's moving across country, if that's investing in some tool or app that will help you do whatever it is that you need to do. I mean, there are so many ways that you'll be able to see it, and everybody's trajectory and career and journey is different, but that was mine. That was long-winded, but
I really appreciate that. Long-winded is welcome. I still don't see anyone on mute, so I'm going to continue to run with it.
Actually, I have a question.
Oh, great. Simeon, go for it.
Yeah, so when you talked about the sort of challenges that you had when you initially went to AOL and sort of the identity crisis, how did you like play a role into that? Like, how was that sort of process like? Was it cultural too? Did you have to like sort of navigate in that space and sort of figure out ways to make the, I guess, the organization or the company itself better? And how was that process like?
oh, that is a multi-dimensional great question. Thank you.
So,
I mean, so when I say identity crisis, I mean when corporations are bought by larger companies, that's what happens. So it was AOL, and then we changed our name to Oath, and now we're under Verizon Media. That's our parent company. How I navigated that at first, it was very difficult, to be honest. There were not a lot of women in senior level positions that look like me. I gravitated towards those women very quickly. But what I learned is that it's not something that is taught, particularly in HBCUs, right? Where I'm from, to navigate a all white space. And when I say all white space, I mean leaders, teammates, fellows, interns, where there's a different culture coming in, where you're used to operating differently, right? When I hear the word love, when I hear the word care, when I hear the words journey or family, those things resonate with me differently. So being in an environment where that didn't stick or that didn't carry as much weight for them, I had to navigate what that looked like, and knowing that all of my help, support, and what I needed in that role was going to come from external folks, not from my job, which is why I don't ever recommend marrying yourself to a role or a company, marrying yourself to your purpose. So that was very, very, very difficult for me. And when I say very, there's a lot of emphasis on it because it was. Um, and for Black women, I think that has been a conversation. It's something that we talk about often, right? Which is why we know that glass ceiling is not completely cracked yet, since there are only 2 Black women currently that are CEOs. But the support is not there yet, and it's okay. That's part of my job and part of my calling, what I spoke about before, to make sure that Black women feel comfortable in those corporate spaces. So that piece was difficult for me, and it only took Simi until maybe a year and a half ago to be able to tell my story and my truth around who I am, what I bring to the table, and it not look like what somebody else wanted me to be, if that makes sense. And that takes time. That's not something you can do coming right out of college, or right into a role, unfortunately. That's the way the current system is, if I'm being honest. But there's an opportunity to navigate that through relationship building, sponsorship and allyship, through people that see your hard work and want you to succeed. That happens as well. So there's a way to be noticed. There's a way to fly under the radar. There's a way to keep your job. There's so many different things that aren't talked about. But yeah, hopefully I answered your question on how I navigated that.
You did. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. That question was an awesome one, and it was very close to the one that I was going to answer. So I'm going to build on that question, Simeon, and I'm going to ask, there's this last year and a half, I consider to be like a great awakening. And yes, very difficult, but also, maybe not in everyone's minds, but at least a fraction of the white population is interested in understanding how we got here and is asking themselves the right question. And that puts people of color in a very difficult position, and very, it can be taxing if they're not up for that challenge. But you mentioned that, as I think you're one of 10 teammates, you mentioned that you were really the person that people are turning to. So what's that been like? What would you recommend to people who find themselves in that role, young people who are going to find themselves in that role of perhaps being the only person of color, perhaps fresh into their careers? Yeah. What would you say about that?
That's a question that keeps me up at night, if I'm being honest with you, because the latter part of what would I say? And I am a huge empath. And when I say that, that means like this is coming from Gallup and their assessment on my top 5 strengths. Like I lead with empathy, followed by harmony, adaptability, restorative, and developer. And so I had to get really maniacally focused on who I am and what I bring to the table and block out noise, which I had done, thank God, like starting in college and like building upon that, and having a very strong foundation, and having a therapist, having a professional coach, all of which I needed heavily the past 5 years. It's difficult to answer that because there's so much toxicity in a system that is built to oppress people of color, and it's working. So, the short answer to that is being very, very into yourself and practicing self-care and love. And that, people always generalize that and what that means in self-care and self-love of mani-pedi or a spa, or you have to have very honest conversations with the people that love you and are surrounding you to say, this is what I'm going through. This is what I'm about to go into. And I need you to help me, and just be a support and a listening ear. Because most times you just need someone to listen. I don't think, and I saw this is not my quote or analogy, right? I saw a meme with a quote about how we are the fish in the ocean and racism is the water. And it stopped me in my tracks, because where in the heck do you go if that's the case? And that's the truth. There is no institution currently that supports and elevates Black women, right, holistically. So when I see young women and men that look like me coming into the industry, it it saddens me if they don't have support. Seriously, it saddens me because it can be really tough. It's not that way for everybody. I will say that. But when you have um, a shining quality where you are that person, you are that it person, you are super talented, they see that. It's hard to navigate it if people try to diminish it, and you have to be very strong-willed and minded in knowing who you are. So if nothing else, I would just say, just be very clear about what it is that you want out of that position. Even if you have to say, okay, this is too toxic, I can't take it. I'm not sleeping well, and I've been there, not sleeping well. I'm giving this 6 months, and you can do that because when you're interviewing with an employer, it's a two-way street. It's like a relationship. It's you trying to figure out if this is a fit for you too. And I didn't know that when I was in school. I wasn't prepared to say, okay, now what are you offering me? What is the culture like? How are people investing into top talent? How are they investing in, people of color coming in from college? Like, I didn't ask those questions partly because I went to a nonprofit where everybody looked like me. But those are questions you have to hold folks accountable. Like, well, if a company, say Verizon, right? And I support through my role over 50 Fortune 500 companies, right? These are very, very powerful women, CEOs in the C-suite, whatever. And I asked them, okay, you've been putting out great diversity numbers and these reports saying how great you've been doing in terms of diversity, equity, inclusion, but what would your people really say? And then it stops them in their tracks a little bit because they don't know. They have no clue. There are surveys that employees have to do I don't know, Madden Marcus, how often we have to do post surveys, but like it's often. But do they actually work, and are they benefiting people that are people of color in the organization? Are they being paid fairly? Do they have the same opportunities to have a promotion? Probably not. And there's absolutely no place that has it all the way right, 100%. So because you know that going into it, you have to figure out what benefits you, will allow you to shine and for you to have the most epic work, right, in that space. And once you lock in on that and say, you're the prize, you're the sauce, you're the whatever to make this place better, that's when there's a paradigm shift. It's not you needing them, it's mutually, you needing each other. So hopefully I answered that question, because that's hard to share with someone if they don't have the resources, if they don't have the support, if they don't have that foundation of knowing who they are before going into these roles. So no one can ever, knock them off of their game and what they want to do or accomplish.
Yes, that definitely did help answer the question. Thank you so much. Toph, you're off.
Yes. Yeah, that was a lovely question. A fantastic response, Janae. Thank you so much. I want to build on it a little bit more because it's just fantastic how you're telling your personal story of a lot of things that we try to emphasize as values, and it revolves around diversity of thought being essential, right? Having different perspectives and making sure people have access to opportunity, but also how important being authentic, being your true self is important in being able to realize that vision of diversity of thought. If you're trying to be what you think you need to be in order to succeed in an environment, you're not really bringing your whole self sometimes. So just curious, Janae, if you could tell us a little bit about how that's come to life for you and how, your authenticity has actually represented your competitive edge and set you apart.
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you. Plainly, this one I won't even be long-winded on. When I first stepped foot in AOL, my hair was straight. It's naturally curly, actually, super curly. My hair was straight for the interview. I was very, hi, how are you? That was the tone in my voice. Just small changes that I made to make other people feel comfortable, right? I don't do that anymore. I stopped doing that a long time ago. My hair's only straight now because I have to film for our makers conference that's next week. But Yeah, I stopped doing all those things. Like hair super big, always have a red lip on, always like a look together to make, and if you feel uncomfortable with that, that's on you. But my individuality and how I step into a room is a part of my brand. And one thing that I absolutely stopped doing is care about how I make things sound, if that makes sense. So like this last year, I've been so authentically Black where I've scared my colleagues a little bit. There was a Zoom call we were on and the internet was, choppy. And, one of the Black colloquialisms in our, culture is, oh, the devil is busy, because it wasn't working. And my colleagues was like, what is this sorcery? Who is the devil? Why is it not working? And, it's just small things where I would not have said that 5 years ago to a group of white women or something. I mean, it's small things like that. That's tiny, but I am so authentically who I am. Or if someone says, on a Monday morning, Tuesday, it doesn't matter what day of the week, and just go right into work and say, oh, what about this? And can we meet about, good morning. How are you? How are you feeling? You don't know what could have happened between the last time we talked. And I don't know what's going on in your world. People are struggling. And when I say struggling, like emotionally, like having it all together, like I am, but just before this call, I had 25 emails. I am an inbox zero person. And I could not get myself together today, like get into the groove. It's Monday. I do not want to go back into a back-to-back meetings and calls prepping for this conference next week. I just don't. Do I love what I do? Absolutely. But do I want to be on emails and calls all day? I want to do this. I want to talk to the people, connect with folks, but I can't. And instead of going right to work and sending me an email about something that needs to be done, I need you to ask me how my weekend was and am I really okay? Because guess what's still real? Racial injustice. And guess what's not happening? Police brutality is not on a break. So because of that, I'm emotionally drained most days. And so I needed my team to understand that. And they are trained now. Because the other thing too that people don't tell you, you got to train people on how to treat you. I don't care what level you are in a career. You have to train people on that. And once I started just operating in a space of authenticity and what makes sense for me, it's night and day. And that only happened, I think, because last year, what was laid bare for us is we were all in this proverbial storm together, albeit different boats, some in yachts, some in little tugboats, but we were all in this storm together, right? And everybody leaning on me, I was like, okay, wait. So I'm taking off time this day, and this day. And I'm not going to be by my phone. Do not call me, connect with me, nothing. Where are you going? Nowhere. I just don't want to talk to you. And I would say it just like that. I don't want to talk to you. And that's okay to say that to a colleague, because if you are coming from a place of love and care, you say that. You would say that to one of your friends, like, I don't feel like talking today, wouldn't you? So why can't I say that to somebody that's asking me for a million things Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, or for me, 10 to 6? But I don't know. I'm not doing that. So hopefully I answered your question.
100%. A little bit of what I heard and what you said too is just the psychological safety that you're not worried about making mistakes or saying the wrong thing, so you can just fully represent. And hopefully that makes other people feel comfortable to bring their authentic selves to the job and the role too. And we're all better for it. So yes, thank you for your response. Appreciate you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Great. So if there are no other questions from the group, I'm going to ask you the last question, and then we're going to actually introduce our challenge to the students in the group. And so as part of your work, you help director level folks aspire to or crack the ceiling and get into those C-level suites. And you also do a lot of work, I think, or your organization does, in helping people shape their narrative and do some pretty amazing storytelling around who they are. So if you could apply some of those same principles and actually think back to your young self coming out of Tennessee, and where you don't necessarily have the credibility of a big job. Perhaps you have internships under your belt, you have programs you've been a part of, classes where you've made quite an impression, extracurricular opportunities, a social life. I can never imagine a time in your life where you were ever lacking confidence. But if you can imagine pulling that all together, a narrative, and presenting yourself in a self-confident a light, what would you say to the young men and women on this call who are thinking about telling their story? And in fact, the challenge of this week is to create a video resume, and one that will, of course, the resume is not going to go away, but the video resume is going to help separate their resume from the rest of the applicants who might be applying for a job. So what would you say about that narrative that students need to present coming right out of college to their first employer?
That's a great question, and you'd be surprised. I actually was a very shy kid. I had a lot of stuff going on in my little head, and part of that was being abused as a child and all of the dynamics from both sides of my family. And so in college, I actually was tasked with, and I would encourage you all to do this too, because this was a huge moment for me, and where you see all of this confidence today. I had to tell my story in front of a class in the honors program, maybe my junior year of college, petrified, because I'm a super private person at the time and did not want anybody to break any part of my boundaries because of just insecurities, right? And when I did that and saw the response and how many other women were going through the same thing, it helped. And you never know how powerful your story is until you tell it for the first time, like the full ugly truth. And you don't have to do that with, your colleagues or classmates if you don't feel comfortable, but somebody. When you start telling your story, it becomes easier to own your authenticity, own your vulnerability, own your power, and that seeps through on camera. So your CVs will stand out because you're so used to telling the truth, your unbridled, like authentic truth, and people will see that. I learned in college as well, authenticity is the hallmark of our generation. Not my words. Dr. Latham, who was my professor in the honors program, said that, and that stuck with me all these years, because anytime I'm sincere, like it has made a huge, profound impact on my life. Not that I've had all the right answers, not that I have it all figured out, because I don't. But whenever I'm sincere and authentic, like that has, I've leaped a lot of situations because of it. So when you start telling your story, get comfortable with that, even the ugly parts that no one, you don't want anyone to hear, that resonates with people. Even if you're not saying it on your CV, which you won't. But when you say the smallest things, like I do this extremely well, and you look at the camera, they're like, oh, wait, they do that. Well, they believe it. You want people to see that you believe who you are. That's it. So that's what I would encourage folks to do.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, Janae, this was such a great pleasure. It was quite wonderful to hear your story, and it was a perfect segue to this week's challenge. Thank you.
So you're welcome. You're welcome. And thank you for having me. All right, good luck with your stories, everybody.
Yeah, anyone want to take just like a thumbnail to share your stories?
Oh, that's a lot of pressure.
I know it is, but I could call on my team, Simeon and Angelica, Tara even. And these are three people who are on the Real Industry team, but two of them are active students, and Tara just graduated this last August.
So.
Okay.
Yep, that's pressure. I get it.
It is pressure. It is pressure.
I didn't do it the first time someone told me to do it either, so that's okay.
You could share it in a short amount of time. I'm gonna think on this though.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Okay, so students in the group, we're gonna just take it on home with a final quick presentation that gives you an idea of what the challenge is for the week. So let me share my screen again. All right. So the challenge, as I alluded to earlier, is to create a video resume. And you'll definitely hear people saying, oh, no, video resume. No, you need a resume. And absolutely you do. When you apply to jobs, and particularly when you apply to jobs online, there are bots and algorithms that are going to screen for keywords. They're going to look at the job description that you're applying to, and they're going to look at what you are saying about yourself. And that's going to really determine whether you even make it into the pile. But we've heard time and time again from industry professionals that when they have a little video link on their resume, 9 times out of 10, your person who's looking at the resume is going to click on that. There's something alluring about that. It's like a little gift. And that's when you really have an ability to shine and say authentically what your strengths and weaknesses are, and really what your passion is and what you were put on this earth to do. So there's a real incredible opportunity to convey that. So I'm going to just play a few snippets that give you a sense of what that could look like. Oh, hang on 1 second. We're going to start here.
Hi, my name is Tanya Williams, and I am seeking internship opportunities within the digital communication field. I am a student at Curry College with a major in communication and a minor in psychology. I have an interest in producing and editing video segments, as well as marketing and advertising through the media. I have had 2 internships working with filming and editing. My first internship was at a public access station located in North Andover, Massachusetts, where I worked on a documentary over the summer before my sophomore year. I conducted interviews, wrote scripts, learned how to edit on Adobe Photoshop, and also worked with professional lighting. As a sophomore, I obtained an on-campus internship in the Curry College Center for Career Development. I have worked on a variety of projects promoting the office and the types of services they offer. I currently still work for the Center for Career Development as their video and marketing assistant. I help promote their office through informational videos and social media outlets. As a student, I am fortunate enough to be a part of the Curry College Communication Scholars Program, where I am able to take advanced courses, make connections with communication professionals, and get a jump start with hands-on experience. I am dedicated to my jobs and schoolwork, and I am able to balance out my responsibilities. I work to create strong relationships with my coworkers, as well as anyone else I interact with while on the job and here at Curry College. I am always looking for new opportunities to test my skills and learn new things.
Okay, so some of the great things about this video, if I could just point out a few, obviously there's the basic information that she's conveying, but the visuals that she pulls in, whether it be a video of her school entrance, to photographs that show her on the job, to logos that she's pulled off of other websites. Now, you may not actually have photos of something that you have done. This may or may not be her. Honestly, I couldn't tell. It could be same kind of hair, but actually there was a photo that looks like it was pulled off of a website. So she's part of this communications program, but she's not actually in the photo. So you could really tell a story by piecing together all of the bits and pieces that you may or may not have accumulated over the last several years of your collegiate life. But the way in which she does it, she really tells a comprehensive story. You wouldn't know that she may not have had a full-time position, because she's really translated her academic experiences, both in class and outside of class, to convey that she has all the skills that would be needed for just about any position, and that she's game for just about anything. And I think that she does a pretty good job of that. Notice also in the way in which she shot it, it's clear that she scripted it out. You're probably going to have to take, like, really carefully script out what you want to say, but also don't be afraid to take 1 to 10 takes. She moves around. She's got this like same green image, but sometimes she's on the right, sometimes she's in the middle, sometimes she's on the left. You can really sort of like take your time in pulling together all these pieces, and so it doesn't have to be one take. I'm going to show little bits of this additional second piece. Actually,
Hey, my name is Vincent Lott.
show
I'm
the
a
whole thing.
production assistant. I received training at Open Rivers Pictures where I've assisted with editing, carrying equipment, to organizing classes, and I've had the opportunity to be hired on a reality show where I was hired as a walkie PA, where I distributed walkies, make sure that they were checked in and checked out, basically maintain upkeep with the overall walkie process. I've also was hired as a lighting assistant where I helped hang up lights, I helped take down lights, helped out with the overall aesthetic process of where the light should go. I was also hired as a director of talent on that reality show where I helped show the talent where to go and where not to go, directed them, basically just helped out with the overall process of that. I was also hired at the Chick-fil-A 2014 Winter Gala where I assisted helping with props, also directing guests on that shoot as well. I was helping out with setup, wrapping cables, also on that shoot, carrying equipment, various things that a set PA does. I received further training by graduating from Open Rivers Film Academy. I also received my production assistant certification from that course. I believe I should be hired as a production assistant because I'm dedicated. I can help out with almost anything on set. I'm just basically very motivated to get whatever job needs to be done in the most effective and efficient way possible.
Now, something about this video resume format, just really, I don't question anything that a person says. You see, he's shown me the evidence of all the different experiences that he has. And when he closes it with, I'm very motivated, it just seals the deal for me. And I think, same kind of thing, thinking about what your audience is looking for in the characteristics of their hire, and being able to communicate that through not only the experiences, but also directly saying, what are the strengths that you possess that make you a top candidate, should make you the #1 candidate. Okay.
Hey, my name is Vincent.
So this last one, I'm not going to share the whole thing because it's kind of long, but notice, these are all technologies that thankfully are readily at your hands, but what I really like about this is the use of some effects and music that and lighting that really make it quite professional. I believe this woman is from Eastern Europe, but she did an incredible job with her presentation.
My name is Melania Smick and this is my video CV. I hope that by the end of this video you will have a feeling that you got to know me a bit better, and also that it will be clear to you what value I could add to your company. But let's start from the beginning. I was born and raised in Poland. Despite this rather monocultural upbringing, I can safely say that I have a relatively international educational background. I graduated from IB, which stands for International Baccalaureate, in a Polish high school. And currently,
okay, so just wanted to give you a snippet on that. I think she's going for the design world, so I definitely get a designerly sense from this. And she very clearly tries to convey that she has the qualities needed to do that. And the last one I want to show is actually one that I found through LinkedIn, where Chelsea Miller created something. Now, the reason I love this one so much is because she doesn't feature in front of the camera. And that might be the right thing for some of you. Like the idea of recording a video of yourself could be totally terrifying. But I'm going to share with you, hang on one second. I'm gonna just have way too many tabs open, and when you have way too many tabs open, what happens is you stop seeing the tabs that are newest. So hang on. Okay, it's possible that I actually, hang on one second. Here it is. So all right, here we go. right, now a lot of companies pay thousands for that kind of video to be made. And she, on this blog post, which you'll get in the follow-up email when we send you this deck, she breaks it down to how she did it. She used painter's tape and a yardstick and positioned her iPhone above a whiteboard and drew a border that showed, okay, as long as I, write within here, it's going to capture this, the image that I want to convey. And so it's super inexpensive to do. You could pull it into iMovie, speed it up, and you have yourself a way to communicate. And the editing on this, you could easily, you don't like what you wrote, you could, do it again later, so long as lighting is consistent, and you have yourself a pretty awesome video. In her blog, she also goes on to say that she, Reid Hoffman of LinkedIn, this discovered the video and promoted it or shared it, and she was able to land a pretty great design gig as a result. It's another great example, especially if you don't want to get in front of the camera. So your challenge this week is to design a video resume and upload it to your LinkedIn profile. And we don't really care what format you use, but we do recommend that you script it out, think about what you want to convey about yourself, and try to get at specific skills and experiences that you have that really show that you are qualified for the kinds of positions that you're trying to land, and also get to some of the emotional intelligence stuff that we've been talking about. Really convey a sense of your strengths and also what you want to, improve on, and what your real goals in life are. The more authentic, the better, and really directly connect with your audience. If I were you, I would not make it specific to a company, although people have done that too. If you know you want to be hired by the team at Makers, then you could create a video that very specifically targeted them. And you could, copy and paste most of the content and just change it up by the target company. But if your intention is to only make one for this challenge and upload it to your LinkedIn, then you probably want to just make it generic and not specifically target a specific company or opportunity. We're going to ask you to submit your work by Thursday at the on the submission form, and we'll include that in the follow-up email. And then, of course, come to Friday's Hour of Mentorship, where industry professionals will take a look and give you feedback on what they thought, what they got from that video, and how you might want to consider improving it for version 2. And we're at time, so we're going to ask you to complete our our survey. This is the Monday survey. Sorry about that, Monday. And give us feedback on this session. We'd love to get your thoughts. So if I could ask my colleague just to drop that link, the survey link, into the chat window, that would be great. And we have 5 minutes left to time. Great. Any thoughts or questions on the challenge for the week? Actually, I'll make that link hyperlinked. There's a hyperlink version. Ah, no, there's not. It went to the waiting room.
I just went in with one thought, Humira.
Yeah.
You hear often stories about folks who have to go sort of that extra mile in order to get recognized or noticed, in order to get especially their first job out of college. So Janae shared a story along those lines today, and I've read a bunch about like cold calling or sending emails or stalking people in a safe way. This video resume is a way to do that, I think. I mean, it definitely sets you apart, and I've personally never done it. A lot of people won't. And so so for companies that are receiving 1,000 different applications for a job, a lot of them are just going to be people who just send it in, just kind of like, hey, why not? Let me try something. But the person who creates a video for that job is absolutely going to get noticed, if not at least a first interview, to kind of learn more about you as a person. So very valuable tool that I wish I would have been given this advice when I was first looking for a job.
Right, same. And you know, the advice that you don't get is sort of like how to, you know, what our speaker was talking about, how to sort of you know, stalk the people who work there. And you know, stalk has this negative connotation, but that's hustle. And that really connotes to the employer that you know how to get things done, you know how to find the people, open the doors, and make things happen. That's a certain, you know, even just the 2,500, that's a signal. When they found out that she actually paid that amount of money in order to get in front of that the folks, like there's no bigger sign of commitment and seriousness. So I would say that if you had someone who is applying through the, you know, the same Verizon / you know, verizon.com/careers, the website where, you know, people apply. If I knew that Matt and Marcus and Toph were at Verizon Media, and I followed up with you know, found their email somehow, which is easy to do these days. To, you know, all you need to do is attend one conference and list your email somewhere. I'm going to follow up with that video resume and say, hey, I applied through the front door, but in case it never makes it to you, I'm the person for your team. And here's why. And here's my video resume. Better even if it's uploaded into YouTube so that that photo appears. And it makes it super intriguing. It's like, who is this person? Why are they sending? What are they saying in this resume? I'm going to click on it. And that's half the battle. Great. Well, thank you, everyone. It was great to see you all. Can't wait to see your submissions, especially you, Grace and Maria, and possibly also Simeon and Angelica. Tara has landed her dream job, I would say. I would like to say that Real Industry was her dream job, but actually, as an industrial engineer, she has landed her first industrial engineering job. And today is technically, I mean, she's not going to leave us, but Monday is her first day on the job. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it, Tara?
Yeah, so Real Industry, definitely when I got this job, I was like, yep, this is my dream job. And it still has a lot of aspects of that. But time to use my degree and try something new. So I'm starting a new job at Rockwell Automation as a change management engineer. So a lot of processes and data analysis. And
it's 4 o'clock.
And Tara was a change agent when she was in my University Innovation Fellows program. And so to be a change management person at Rockwell, which is, you know, just robotics and automation is game changing. In this next decade, Rockwell will be in every aspect of manufacturing that's coming back to the United States. We're so proud of her to be in this new role. And she'll come back as a cameo special guest to support us. All right. Thank you, everyone. It was so nice to see you, and we look forward to seeing you on Friday.
Hey, everyone.